Welcome to the Be Ruthless show, where we have the conversations that other people don't, the conversations that other people won't. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and I'm ready to make a lot of noise and disrupt things, ruthlessly. Thanks for being here today. Now let's get to it. Welcome back to the Be Ruthless show. I'm your host, Sam Ruth, and today I have a wonderful guest joining me. Sabrina Victoria is the creator and CEO of Human Better 365, a human transformation company, and the creator of the Envision podcast. Speaker, entrepreneur, and author of Envision Your Best Life, 90-Day Planner, and creator of Catapult Your Life in 365 Days, self-proclaimed Queen of Time, Sabrina focuses on time management and organization as the foundation of life. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
You have such an amazing story, and I just want you to start and let people know what you want them to know about you.
I always like to start with the very beginning, because the very beginning has a lot to do with why I ended up where I ended up. So I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness, as some people know a lot about and some people know nothing about, but it's a very black and white religion. And probably around 16, 17, right around the time I got a car, I decided to rebel. And when I say rebel, I mean be normal. So I liked boys. I'm 16 years old. I like boys. And I, started getting curious about, boyfriends and holding hands and kissing and all that good stuff. Anyways, long story short, 16 to 20, in and out of relationships, my parents aren't liking it very much. The religion is giving me a really hard time. And I end up pregnant. I end up pregnant at 20 years old. I had a child at 21 years old. And I was, at that point, you can't hide pregnancy. So I had to come forward, I had to confess, and I was disassociated from everything that I knew. So one of the things with Jehovah's Witnesses is you are only a Jehovah's Witness. You only hang out with Jehovah's Witnesses and you don't hang out with anybody outside. Everybody outside of the religion is considered worldly. So you have no outside contact. You only have contact within the religion. And when you do something bad, they tell you you no longer have anything inside the religion, including your family, friends, people who have known you for years, and you have no outside. So you're basically completely isolated. Then to make it even worse, in order to get back in order to reunite with your family, you cannot go outside the religion still. So not only are you being completely ignored by the people you love, but you're also can't go to anybody else outside the religion, because if anybody sees you, if you find out, if God sees you, they will not invite you back in at any point. So it's this literally complete sense of isolation. And at that point, son's father was out of the picture, zero child support. I have a baby. I have no money. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. My eviction notices on my apartment. My car's getting repoed. And a man at the job that I worked at started paying attention to me and was taking me out to dinner and was taking me to the movies and was buying little toys for my son. And I thought to myself, wow, finally somebody, appreciates me, somebody loves me. And you have to realize that at this point in time, there was nobody else. It was literally just this one person. I was completely isolated from both sects of people in the world. And so I kind of just I fell for him and everything that he was offering me. And unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, he was an extremely abusive individual. And I didn't start to realize this until, a year, 2, 3 years in. Obviously, I saw red flags. Looking back, I see all of the things that I should have recognized, but I was in such turmoil. I was in such a worthless, sinful, dirty, dark identity. That's just how I viewed myself. I viewed myself as a sinful, dark, dirty daughter, Christian woman. And the fact that anybody was paying attention to me was great. It was great. And I put up with a lot during those first few years that I was with him. And I took a lot. I took a lot sexually. One of the biggest things that I talk about with females is sexual coercion. Being raped without knowing you're being raped, and the manipulation with alcohol. I'm now sober a lot of years, 13, 14, 15 years, I don't even know. But realizing early on in that relationship that alcohol was being used to manipulate me, to make me more docile, so that he could do things to me sexually that I was not okay with, and then using it against me. So waking up in the morning several times a week, bleeding with bruises, with stuff that I was not okay with, and crying, looking for some sort of a hug, some sort of compassion, and literally being met with, you asked for it and you don't remember because you were so wasted, because you were so drunk, because you were so out of it. And his use of alcohol on me was then being used against me. And early on,
he's still the only one you have at this point, right?
Yeah, the only one. I did eventually wind up getting back into the Jehovah's Witness religion. I was going to meetings, I was doing all of the things. And but with that, I knew that I was also living in sin. So although I did get back in, at the same time, mentally and emotionally and morally, I felt silly. You can't talk, I couldn't talk about what was happening in my life to anybody, because again, that's against the religion. So I'm virtually living two separate lives. So coming to terms with that, as the years have gone on, and after I have left, and coming to terms with what rape is and what it looks like when you are in a relationship, and not necessarily realizing that anytime you are not wanting to do something sexually that somebody is making you do, that is sexual assault, that is rape. And one of the hardest things that I deal with in that arena is the fact that mentally I enjoyed the sex. Mentally, I orgasmed. I orgasmed, but looking back, the reason I orgasmed was because if I didn't orgasm, I would then get punished. And so knowing as his spouse or as his partner what I had to do in order to make sure that he was satisfied, in order to make sure he was happy, in order to make sure that these verbally abusive things weren't said to me, I knew what I had to do. So, holding in tears, holding in emotion, and performing to the point that he needed me to was very, very important for us as a relationship and for my mental and emotional health. And not realizing that was a huge relief after I escaped, and kind of realizing that was something that was happening to me, and that I wasn't crazy, and that wasn't normal, because I didn't know that wasn't normal. So, during the duration of this time, the my ex had first taken me into his home. So like I said, I was getting eviction notices, my car was getting repoed, money was very tight, and he so graciously said, hey, come live with me, you have no bills, you don't have to pay anything, all you have to do is just take care of my house and do my laundry, cooking, cleaning. And I was like, cool, that's great, oh my gosh, thank you so much. So I sell all of my stuff. He made it very clear that he didn't want any of my junk in his house. So I sold everything. All I had was our clothes, my clothes and my son's clothes. That's it. We brought nothing else with us, maybe a few toys, but not a lot. Moved into his house. About 6 months in, he says, hey, this job that you go to every single day, why don't you quit your job and come work for me? We'll build an empire together. We'll be able to retire together. We'll be millionaires together. And after 6, 7, 8 months of him, talking about it, I decided, okay, I'll quit my job. That's a great idea. Quit my job, came working for him. Now, as an empath / codependent / I have no voice, / I don't like confrontation, I never asked him how much I would get paid. So I didn't get paid. Week in, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, I'm working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week because work comes home with us, work before work. And probably, I don't know, 5, 6 weeks in, I don't know how much time it was, but my next bill came up when I had no more money. My money ran out, a bill came up, and I was forced, now I know he did this on purpose, but I was forced to ask, like, hey, money, I have bills. So he agreed to pay me $250 a week, $250 a week to pay for my car, my gas, my insurance, my phone, all the groceries, all the toiletries, my son, pretty much everything. I was living on $1,000 a month. Now, that might seem like a lot, or it might seem like a little, depending on where you're from. But where I was, that literally was paycheck to paycheck. So this goes on for years. Eventually, I don't know how long in, a year, 2 years in, running out of money, still, credit cards here, credit cards there, can't pay certain things, still living paycheck to paycheck. I go to him in frustration. I say, hey, I need more money. Like, this isn't enough money for what we're doing here. I can't pay my phone bill. And he goes, well, how about this? How about this? Instead of me giving you more money, how about if I just pay for your phone bill? Cancel your phone bill, join my phone, and I'll pay for your phone bill. And in my head, I was like, wow, great, fantastic. That was so easy. But as you can see, first I gave up my home, then I gave up my job, then I gave up my phone, and then just a couple years later, my car. I wound up giving up my car. My car gets in a car accident, and I want to go buy a new car. And instead of him allowing me to go buy a new car, he insists on buying me a car in his name. So it's not my car, it's his car. And these are all pawns. So these are all pawns that he uses throughout our relationship to threaten me. So anytime I get a little voicey, anytime I get a little opinionated, it turns into, me wanting to leave the house to get some fresh air, and him saying, how are you leaving? And I say, well, I'm taking my car. And he goes, that's not your car. That's my car. Or me being on a really long phone call with my mom or with a friend, and him being irritated or frustrated with me at some point, and then him reminding me, hey, get off the phone. I'm on the phone with my friend. Get off the phone. I'm on the phone with my friend. Get off the phone. That's my phone. Give me my phone. So eventually, I literally am a complete prisoner in my own home, a complete prisoner in this world, in this life. And I've slowly created it for myself because of being so naive to what was happening to me.
And you're still isolated because you cannot talk even to the supports that you have about this life because it's so private.
Yeah.
And you can't be associated with your family that way.
Yeah, exactly.
At what point did you and how did you get away? Because clearly he's an ex.
So it's interesting, actually. In 2009, so him and I linked up when I was 22-ish, probably around 2006. In 2013, I did a Google search. So I was in the bathroom, I was in the dark, I was on the floor, I was crying in complete despair. Anybody who has been in a narcissistic abusive relationship for any more than a year can totally relate to the despair, the yelling, the crying, the breaking, the literally like hovering in a corner, feeling as if every single part of you is completely broken and gone and worthless. And I'm on the ground. He's watching TV. And I'm just tears, just pouring out, just feelings out of every pore of my body. And I do a Google search through my filtered eyes of tears. And I put in there, why is my boyfriend bullying me? Because I did not know any other vernacular other than that. And the Sir Google opened up an entire world of narcissistic abuse, of codependency, of empaths and empathy. And I began to realize that I was stuck in this cycle that, yes, me, but also so much him. And I went down a rabbit hole, as so many of us do, learning all of the things and teaching ourselves that the relationship that we're in is so unbelievably toxic. And I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision at that point once I realized that it wasn't just me. I had to make a decision to either stay or to go. And I made a decision to go. So I opened up a secret bank account. I opened up a secret storage unit. I opened up an eBay account, a Fiverr account, and a OfferUp account. And I started selling. I started taking pictures here and there while he was watching TV, while he was sleeping, while he was out and about. And I started taking pictures of clothes and toys and jewelry and started making money. And about a year in, I had $6,000. And I cannot even tell you how I felt like a millionaire. I felt like I had so much money. I had never had that much money my whole life. And I'm like 29 or something years old. And I felt so good. And for once in my life, I felt like I could brag about something. I felt like I could say I did something. So one day, ego got a hold of me, and I'm in the kitchen, and my fiance at that time, at this point, he's my fiance, is coming up the stairs behind me. I could hear him. And there was a part of me, stupidly, there was a part of me that wanted him to know what I had done, that wanted him to realize how smart I was and how brave I was and how I created this thing out of nothing. And I don't know what I thought he was going to say. I don't know, like, what I thought he could possibly see out of that. But I kept my bank account open for just a little too long, like just a little too long. And he saw the $6,000, and he immediately flipped out into a total rage, told me that I was unappreciative, that I was ungrateful, that I was a thief. How dare I? I'm not paying anything, no utilities, no rent. At this point, no car payment, because he owns everything. He owns all of my stuff. So he's like, how dare you have money? And how dare you not be giving money towards our household if you have so much money? And it was at that point when I really recognized the financial abuse. Because in my head, I'm like, he loves me. He cares about me. Look at all the stuff he's doing for me. It just happens to be that, I don't have to have money. I don't have to have these things because he's taking care of me. But it was at that moment that I realized he didn't want me to have money. The money was a threat to him. Anyways, he decided that all of my finances that he was paying me at this point, which had raised at that point, he was probably paying me like $350 a week or something at that point. We had been together for 8 years. It had raised a couple times. And he cut off all money, everything, zero. He's like, you're getting nothing, no allowance, no paycheck, no nothing for 6 months. So that forced me to use my $6,000 to live, to pay all of the things. And I, after 6 months, started up again. The money started up again. And I continued to save. I continued to under the radar save. He never asked me how I had that money. He never asked me how I acquired that money. He just assumed that like the little bit of extra money that he had been giving me a week, plus I wasn't paying for a car or a phone, was helping me create this wealth. So
you said earlier that you Google, first of all, I love that Google's the hero, but that
yes,
you Googled, what do I do if my husband's bullying me? Because either we hear the term narcissistic used, or people have no concept of what it means. And I think a lot of people listening can relate and don't know they're in those situations. So what do those people do? Like, how do you know, did you just reach a point of so much pain that you went to Google?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I had absolutely zero idea. And that is what that's what I preach now is, and in every single one of my podcasts and videos regarding narcissism, I put in there, why is my boyfriend bullying me? I put in exactly what I Googled, because if you don't know the word usage of the abuse, it doesn't seem like abuse because I was never getting hit. He never hit me. He never threatened to hit me.
And you're so isolated, you don't see or hear other stories. I think that's a really important point for anyone listening. It is not healthy to be isolated, whether it's a friend, a partner, and that is a red flag. And you might not know it.
Yeah.
But letting go of your identity, your things, your relationships is giving someone, they're taking without you know it, control. So if you relate to any of that, please stay, continue listening and continue to connect with Sabrina, because I just think most of the world doesn't know until it's too late. And we don't want you to hit that much pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I so appreciate people like you who allow me to tell the story, because I did like that 8 years of my life and I literally had no idea. He had me so convinced that it was me. It was me who wasn't doing the sex right. It was me that wasn't cleaning the kitchen right. It was me that wasn't running the business right. It was me that was a shitty mom. And now looking back, that was him just continuously badgering me to make sure that my self-worth was way down here, because if your self-worth is down here, you feel as if nobody else will ever love you. How could anybody else ever put up with somebody who was so bad at sex, who was so bad at being a mother, who was so bad at keeping house, who was so bad at running his business? Nobody would ever want me. So that keeps me with him because he's doing me a favor. He's doing me a favor by keeping me, by taking care of me. It's
and
very
again,
heavy.
You have no outside sources telling you that's insane, or you don't deserve to be treated that way. We all are worth something. We all deserve love and happiness, and any conflict takes two people. So he convinced you that it was you and you couldn't leave, because where would you go and who would want you?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. So one of the things that I like to highlight right around here is, during this point, I had done so much research on narcissism, and I decided, not like manipulative Sabrina decided, but just like unconsciously, I started using the things that I learned about narcissistic people against him. So one of the things that they love is for their ego to be stroked. One of the things that they love is to be admired in public. So my old me, probably 5 to 8 years before, I hated him. I literally hated him. I wanted him to be murdered. I hated him so much, and showed no love, showed no appreciation, cold stone, irritated, pissed off all the time, faking goodness, when we're out in public, but at home, just hating every moment of it. And after learning about narcissism, I switched, and I became the most loving, most caring, most outwardly braggadocious
ego
fiance ever. Yes, all the time. Anytime he walked into the room, I would praise him and tell him how handsome he looked. I started initiating sex. I started doing all of the things that I hated doing, that I knew that he wanted. And what this started to do was actually allow me to have more freedom. More freedom. He actually totally fed into the whole thing. And I actually got a friend. I got a friend. She was a friend in the neighborhood. And this friend in the neighborhood is actually the woman who wound up literally saving my life. So 2 years, I lose my $6,000 basically. 2 years later, I wind up accumulating $15,000. And I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. I call my son's father and I say, hey, listen, because at that point, my son's father and I were at pretty good terms. He was still not giving me child support, but he was taking him more often and whatever. $15,000. I called my son's father and I said, hey, I'm leaving my spouse, that I'm my person that I'm with right now. I'm going to get my own place. I'm just letting you know because things are going to be rocky. I might be emotional and I might need some help financially because I'm super scared. I haven't been on my own since like ever. So he was like, wow, good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome. Great. And I felt supported. I was like, this is all working out. I started looking at apartment complexes. I started looking for things to furnish my place with, put stuff in my storage unit on top of the stuff that I'm selling, because I also have stuff in there that I'm selling because I'm thrifting and trying to, sell on eBay and flipping stuff. So anyways, that summer, I'm like looking to leave. And my son's father says, hey, do you mind if I take Elijah, that's my son, to go camping. I was like, sure, 100%, take him. Took him for a week. The day that he's supposed to be back, he didn't tell me what time, but he's supposed to be back. I start getting this weird feeling. It's like noon, no word. It's 2, no word. It's 5 in the afternoon, no word. So I send him a text message, and I say, hey, again, not wanting conflict, not wanting to be confrontational, trying to walk on eggshells with everybody in my life. I send him a text and I say, hey, I would like to know if you're feeding Elijah dinner or am I feeding Elijah dinner? Just to get a feel for like time. And he responds back with, I will no longer be speaking to you through phone or text, email only. And immediately my heart drops. I open up my email. Lo and behold, there's this long email, whole page. Thank you so much for taking care of Elijah for the last 11 years. I really appreciate all that you've done. I will take it from here. Thank you. So needless to say, I had no idea, but apparently the week before that, he had moved in with his girlfriend. So I had no idea where he lived. And called my mom, freaking out. And my fiance at the time, my ex, was out of town. And the story is insane. I won't get into the details of it, but it's absolutely insane. Long story short, $15,000, a whole year of just total turmoil. $15,000 is what my lawyer required. No, $18,000, right? My lawyer costed me $18,000. So I had 15. So I gave him my 15 in cash, sporadically throughout the year. And now I'm $3,000 in credit card debt. Needless to say, I could not do any extras during that year. I was not selling. I was so broken. I was so devastated. I was so just beyond how many bad breaks could one person have? You know what I mean? Like how much bad luck can one person have? And I could barely even function as a person. And I'm also living with my narcissist who's mentally and emotionally abusing me despite the fact of. So,
and you've used your get out of this situation money to get
all
some,
of it,
right?
all
for the
of
lawyer.
it,
right?
Yep. So the huge turning point was actually in the parking lot of my lawyer. I'm sitting with a piece of paper, the new contract for custody, and all of the terms that costed me $18,000 for this piece of paper. And I'm in my car, all dramatic just like the movies. And I'm crying and I'm hitting my steering wheel and I'm throwing the paper. And I'm just so distraught at what God is doing to me, what the devil is doing to me, what I am doing to me. Like, who is after me? Who hates me so much in this universe that no matter how many times I try, no matter how many times I try to better myself, I continue to end up on the floor? What is going on? And I'm so tired. I'm so tired. And I want to just drive my car off a bridge. I just want it to end. I'm so just exhausted by being bullied by so many people in my life. And I have tears running down my face. I am just so heartbroken in so many areas of my life. And I had to make a decision. Again, I had to make a decision. Am I going to give up? And just, this is my life. This is my life. I'm with this guy. I know what to expect, right? At this point, he's a complete asshole, but I like know what to expect. I am being taken care of financially, and just fall into the abuse. Just, some women live with abusive husbands. Mm-hmm. Some people do that for their whole lives. Or do I do it again? Do I try to do it again? And I decided that I would spend the rest of my life trying to get out. I didn't care. I didn't care how long it took. I would spend the rest of my life trying to get out. And the reason I would do that was because there's nothing on this earth that led me to believe that we as humans are meant to be punching bags, physically or mentally. And I believed with all of my heart that I was meant for more, and I was supposed to be doing more. And I didn't want to look back at the age of 55 or 65 or 75 and think to myself, what if? What if I would have just tried one more time? What if I would have tried 2 more times or 3 more times? Would I at this moment be free, and would I be happy? And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that again. So I freaking drove home, put on a happy face, pretended like everything was perfect. And at this point, I'm getting child support now. So it took me 1 year. It took me 1 year. I made about $30,000, $31,000, and left my car behind, left my phone behind, left my computer behind. And then 1 year later, I just walked out. I just walked out. All of my crap was in a storage unit or in a house. So basically what happened, the part that I left out was the girl. There was a female, because he was letting me have more freedom. There was a female who was a couple streets over from me, who asked me to work out with her in the morning in the neighborhood. And my spouse was okay with that. In the morning in the neighborhood with one female. And I had started telling this female what was going on, like, a little bit of what was going on. And as a year progressed, every morning I would work out with her, she started to learn more and more and more. Well, simultaneously, as I'm saving, she is dealing with her own issues with her children and college and high school, or moving around or whatever. And she contacts me one day and she says, hey, I'm putting my house up for rent, and I'm moving into this another area so my children can go to a different school. I'm contacting you first because I know your situation. It literally was handed to me.
No, you put it into the universe.
Good point. But I paid her 6 months up front, and literally just went from one house to the other. Granted, I was 3 streets over, but you have to realize that I didn't want to, my son, right? My son was losing this big house, this beautiful car, his own dog. And I didn't want to flip him from that and also leave a school, also leave the bus stop, also leave his friends. I didn't want to do all that to him. So it was so perfect, because although we were so close, my son still had the same bus stop, same friends, still could ride his bike around, and, did upset some stuff, but not everything. So it worked out absolutely perfectly.
Listening who think you're Wonder Woman. Like, who that sounds so far away to their situation, what one thing can they do to take a little bit of power and control and get closer? Because you were as down as it gets multiple times.
So the one thing that I want to say, which me relating to them, there's a thing called trauma bonding. I don't know if you've heard of this, but this is the one thing that keeps you in these relationships for so long, because what they do is while you are down, you start to think to leave. And then as soon as they start to realize that you're super fed up and you're done, they do this thing called love bombing, where they all of a sudden, you are a princess and you're the best and you're the prettiest. And I love you so much. And I could never live without you. And you're my soulmate. And you fall for it. And there becomes this roller coaster throughout the relationship daily, not weekly or monthly, daily, where you're on the ground, dirt, and then you're up in the air as a queen. And they put you on this roller coaster, and it makes it almost impossible to be able to make a plan, because one minute you're like, this sucks. And the next minute you're like, this actually isn't that bad. So what I did, my very first thing that I tell everyone to do is to get a journal and start journaling all of the abuse, all of it. Because what starts to happen is one page turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into 4, turns into 16, turns into 22, turns into 56. And what happens is you start to, oh, that might have been bad on my microphone. You start to see a cycle visibly.
I never would have thought of that.
Physically. See if
Yes.
Because in our heads, it's very easy for us to tell ourselves, I might be exaggerating this. Like, I was told every day that I was super dramatic. He's like, you are so dramatic. Now, years out, I'm not dramatic. I'm literally not.
Which happened first? Did you start journaling, or did you start opening up to your friend?
I started journaling before I knew about narcissistic abuse.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I just started.
People listening who aren't ready to take the step and maybe make that conversation with another person, have it with yourself. Start recording, because then you have something to look at that makes you, I'm imagining, sick.
Yeah, you have to convince yourself first. You have to convince yourself, because it's hard. This is really hard. I'm not gonna lie. This almost killed me. Like, I almost killed myself. Literally, I'm not even kidding. Like, I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to die. It was so hard. But what made it easier was the fact that I knew I wasn't crazy. I saw it. I could physically see the abuse. And then once I fell into the Google of narcissism, that made my foundation so strong. I had my notebook, and then I had the proof, scientific reading, videos, forums, Google searches, all the stuff that people put on the internet for free that they're so lovingly do, helped me grow that foundation. So I was standing on something that was very, very strong for me. And that would be my first thing.
And then secretly save somehow. How did you do that? I mean, these are controlling, domineering people that don't necessarily give privacy. In a shoebox under the bed, what would you tell someone?
So this is what I tell every person. Your abuser, you may feel like completely in a prison. You have zero freedom, but I guarantee you, if you are absolutely honest with yourself, unless you are locked in a basement, there are freedoms that you have. There just are, because the only way that your abuser can completely monitor everything is if they have a camera on you 24/7, and then they're watching the camera 24/7, which means they wouldn't be able to have a job. So there are freedoms that you have You just have to find them. So, with me, with my bank account, I can't even tell you, my heart was beating out of my body when I was getting that bank account. I was like everywhere, looking, worrying, frustrated. I also opened up a PO box. And I didn't say that, but I opened up a PO box.
People listening, you can open up bank accounts online these days. With everything going on, it's easier than it was a few years ago. That's
100%.
one thing. So it's just the secrecy. It's just giving yourself some sort of permission to take a chance on you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I went to a bank that was not in my town. I went to a bank that was, which you're saying now online, so you don't even have to do that. But I went to a bank that was not in my town. So I didn't have to worry about him seeing me go through a drive-through or anything like that. Granted, the businesses were all online, but I didn't want any worries. So I went to a bank not in my town, a bank that was not associated with us. And I also got a PO box. So the mailing that could possibly accidentally be sent to my house would be accidentally sent to the PO box. And the PO box costed like $6 a month. It was nothing. In order to make an investment in my future. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And I wouldn't have thought, but yes, an accidental, the bank sends some sort of something that's a good one.
Yep. And then soon on, I opened up that storage unit. I didn't do everything that day, but over the course of a year or so, I started acquiring more things, or I needed to start flipping things. So I went and got the storage unit, and the storage unit was sent to my PO box also. So it was kind of like a savior for me mentally to not have to ever worry about anything being sent to the house. And then, the eBay account, all the banking stuff was just sent to my bank account, and everything that I sold was just dumped into that secret account.
And people listening, you could connect with Sabrina, which is something you didn't have. You made a connection with a friend, which is so, so crucial.
Yeah.
But people listening, you can connect with someone who's been through it and can help you along the way. How do people do that? How do we find you?
So I usually just send everybody to my main website, which is sabrinavictoria.com. And that has all my social media and all my podcasts and everything that I do to make it simple. So sabrinavictoria.com.
Perfect. What else do you want people listening to know?
Oh, I mean, the number one thing is whether you're in the relationship or whether you are already out of the relationship and you're dealing with that turmoil and trying to heal, I tell everybody to figure out what you are learning and figure out what you learned. So always combat every single struggle that you have with your life in the eyes of a student. So every single time, those last 4 years that I was with my spouse after I learned about narcissism and I stopped playing the victim and I started to grow my power secretly, is whenever we get into an argument or whenever anything catastrophic would happen, which was every single day, instead of it being woe is me, I started saying, what am I learning from this? What is he teaching me right now? And I started to grow my power internally. And instead of saying, oh, how dare me, I started saying, I can freaking do this. I can take this man. I can endure this verbal abuse all day, every day, hit me harder. And it got to the point over the course of those years, not right away, but over the course of years towards the end, where I literally was standing up to him and saying, what else? You've been telling me these things for 13, 14 years. What else? I already know that I'm a bitch and all these words that he would use to describe me. And I started confronting him and saying, what else do you have? Is there anything else that you can call me? Because I already know all of these things. And that internally is me telling my brain, like, I'm more powerful. I am more powerful than all of these words. Look at all the stuff that I'm enduring. This is how strong I am. Any other person would have been broken in this situation, and I'm still here and I'm still standing and I'm still powerful. And learning that, recognizing that, and standing on that.
So everyone listening, connect with Sabrina, sabrinavictoria.com, wherever you are in your journey. Everything is a lesson. Figure out what you can learn from it. Thank you so much for sharing your time, your story, your wisdom. And until next time, everyone, always be ruthless. Thanks so much for listening today. Your support means everything to me, truly. If this podcast resonates with you, please do me a favor and join in the Ruthless movement by making some noise and doing one of these 4 things. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Tell a friend so we can break stigmas even faster. Leave a review so people can see what you think of the show. And last, if you want to learn more about me and be a part of the Grief Hab community, please head on over to the Facebook group. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for spending your time with us, and see you next week.